All right, so what we're going to do is compare side lengths of triangles and angle measures. And in order to do that, we need to back up and we need to just talk about a general concept of mathematics, which is the comparison property of inequality. Don't be thrown by the name if it doesn't sound like it's got a name that makes sense. It just says if A is equal to B plus C and C is greater than 0, then A, the number that's on the left-hand side, has to be bigger than what C is. Essentially what it's saying here is this, like if C was less than 0, you could say, have it set up as like 5 equals 7 plus -2. That's true, okay? But that's because that C number is less than 0, and therefore B can be bigger than what A is because it, the C value is taking away from instead of adding to it. But if that C value had to be positive, then, and let's give it a positive value of even just say 1, then you can see that what amount remains for B has to be less than the total amount, okay? So like that. So essentially what we're going to be dealing with are positive values because we have um, angles and side measures, and they're always going to be positive in the problems that we're dealing with. Okay, so that being the case, just know that what we're going to deal with is going to be positive numbers, and therefore this will always kind of intuitively be true that whatever this number is over here, if it's two other positive numbers being added together, they must each be smaller. So A automatically has to be bigger. That's the big idea here. Okay, now here they do a proof of that idea. Um, if C is greater than 0, then B plus C has to be greater than B plus 0, which is just addition property, adding to the same amount to both sides. And then that simplifies down, right? B plus 0 is just B. And if you were to then say that we know that A is equal to B plus C, then plugging that in for here would say that A is greater than B. Okay? But the short and sweet of this is that if you have two positive values here, then uh, what they add to has to always be greater than what each of them are individually. So given that idea, we remember when we have the triangle exterior angle theorem, we say that that theorem states that angle 1, this exterior angle, is going to be equal to the sum of the remote interior angles, angles 2 and 3. Okay? Well, the corollary to this then is that if angle 1 is an exterior angle and uh, it's equal to the sum of these two, then these two each individually have to be smaller, each as an individual angle. So we know that angle 2 is smaller than angle 1, and angle 3 is smaller than angle 1, so that when they add together, they become the measure of the angle 1. Okay, so this is a proof of that, but that's just the general idea. If this is equal to the sum of these two, then each one of them individually has to be smaller. And I think that intuitively makes sense to you. So we're going to apply this. Okay, um, now here's this big idea. If we're applying that corollary idea, you have to figure it right. Why is the measure of angle 2 greater than the measure of angle 3? Well, if we wanted to use that exterior angles theorem, we don't actually have, 2 is not an exterior angle. You would form an exterior angle by continuing the sides of the triangle, and you can see if you continue that side of the triangle, that's not how angle 2 is formed. But angle 1 is formed like that, and we have this being an isosceles triangle, which means the base angles, angles 1 and 2, are congruent. So we know that because it's isosceles, the measure of angle 1 is congruent to the measure of angle 2, and therefore, if we can show that the measure of angle 1 is greater than the measure of angle 3, then by substitution, we can say the measure of angle 2 is as well, since they're equal. Okay, so angle 1 is an exterior angle of this triangle. So by the corollary of that triangle exterior angles theorem, we know that the measure of angle 1 has to be greater than the measure of angle 3, just as it's greater than the measure of angle 4, because those are the two remote interior angles. So since the measure of angle 1 is greater than the measure of angle 3, by substitution, the measure of angle 2 is greater than the measure of angle 3. Neat. Okay. Why is the measure of angle 5 greater than the measure of angle C? Try that right now and we'll come back in a second. Okay, so the reasoning here is that we've got this triangle, triangle ADC, okay? That angle 5 is an exterior angle to, right? You extend that side of that triangle out and you get angle 5 and that side. So therefore, we know that the measure of angle 5 is greater than the measure of angle 3 and greater than the measure of angle C independently because it's equal to this measure plus this measure together. So it must be greater than either one of those independently. So why is the measure of angle 5 greater than the measure of angle C? Because the corollary to the triangle exterior angle theorem states that an exterior angle will always be greater than either one of the remote interior angles individually. And this angle C is a remote interior angle for triangle ADC. There you go. So here's another cool theorem. If two sides of a triangle are not congruent, then the larger angle lies opposite the longer side. So if we were talking about these two sides and we knew that side XZ was greater than side XY, then we would know that the angle opposite XZ, angle Y, would be greater than the angle opposite XY, angle Z. Okay, so the measure of angle Y would then be greater than the measure of angle C. And that holds with stuff that we know when there are congruent sides, their opposite angles are equal. And even in an equilateral triangle, all three sides are the same, so all three angles are equal. It's related to that, right? So if two sides are the same, then the angles opposite them are equal. What if they're not the same? Well, then whatever has the bigger side, the opposite angle is bigger. It's pretty intuitive, hopefully. And we'll apply it right now. All right, so we have this triangular park, and a landscape architect wants to place a bench at the corner with the largest angle. So which two streets form that largest angle? Well, the largest angle is going to be opposite the longest side. The longest side here is Hollingworth Road. And so the opposite angle is going to be formed by the two roads that make that angle. So Martin Luther King Boulevard and Valley Road form that largest angle because that's what it's asking. Which streets form the corner? Yeah. And by the way, up here, just as a note, it says, how do you find what the opposite angle is? Well, there's three sides in a triangle, and the angle is formed by two of the sides, right? The third side that's not forming that angle will be the opposite side. Now, suppose the landscape architect wants to place a drinking fountain at the corner with the second largest angle. Which two streets form that one? Try it for a second, and then we'll answer it. Okay, so the second largest angle is going to be across from the second largest side, or the middle length side in the triangle. That's this right here, Valley Road. So what two streets form that second largest angle that's opposite it? Well, the other two streets. So Hollingsworth Road and Martin Luther King Boulevard. Yep. Okay, now the proof of this relies on indirect reasoning, and that was actually a section of the book that we skipped for the sake of time. So I won't go into the proof of this, but basically what it says here is if two angles are not congruent, then the longer side lies opposite the larger angle. That's kind of like the converse of the last thing we just talked about. So if you know that one angle is bigger than the other angle, measure of angle A is bigger, then its opposite side will be bigger, right? Pretty clear and intuitive. So then, which choice shows the sides of triangle TUV in order from shortest to largest? Well, again, if we can take a look at this note up here, but we are going to list the angle measures in order from smallest to largest, and then the opposite sides go where the angles went if we went from smallest to largest. So we need to obviously calculate what's this missing angle, and this missing angle is 60. So we've got 58 is the smallest, then 60, then 62. What's opposite of 58? TV or VT. That means it's going to be either A or D, right? What's the next biggest side? Or next biggest angle? Angle t, and that's opposite of uv, so it's got to be tv and then uv, which means it's going to be a, and then that largest side will be across from the largest angle, and the largest angle is v, 62, so ut will be the largest. So the answer is choice A. Okay. What about in here? They're telling you right here that the measure of angle S is 24 and the measure of angle O is 130. Which side is the shortest side? Do that and explain how you know it. Okay, so if we were to then calculate that third side, I'm sorry I can't write, but I'm using my finger to write because my pen tip exploded. So I'm going to go to school and get another one today. But if we know what the three angles are, then we can start to sort out the shortest side. So we got to see, is this the smallest angle or is the other angle smallest? So if we calculate here, what's 130 plus 124? And I guess I could write this. 130 plus 124, sorry, plus 24 is 154. This with my finger. So if we did 180 minus 154, we would find that the other angle is 26 degrees, and that's actually slightly larger than the angle S. And so we can say, okay, angle S is then the smallest, so the shortest side is going to be opposite side OX. So the answer will be side OX. Okay, now this one, I really like this one actually. This is pretty good. In a triangle, any two sides have to be longer than what that third side is. Here's the idea, is that if this is 3 and this is 3, then it can reach from that end to that end, which is a distance of 5, and still have enough to kind of like keep it from laying right on top if you were to connect them. It pops it up a little, okay? Here, you have this side of 6, but these sides are only 2. They don't reach. Even if you laid them flat down onto that 6 side, they wouldn't reach, okay? And if they were exactly the same, let's say that was 4 and 2, they would perfectly reach. 4 and 2 would span across that 6 exactly, but they wouldn't have any extra length that would allow it to not be sitting right on top. And so you wouldn't get a triangle unless the two sides were longer. So this states that the sum of the lengths of any two sides of a triangle has to be greater than whatever the third side is. Okay, and we're going to apply that in just a second. But it makes sense intuitively in that those two sides together have to be connected to the endpoint of the third side and span the entire distance and then some, so that you had a kind of pop-up of a triangle. So let's see how we use it. Okay, so can the triangle have sides with the given lengths? Explain. And here it says, okay, well, we need to actually check it out, test each one, take two sides, add them together, and see that it is indeed greater than the other one. If you have it failing, though, the reason that it's going to fail is going to be because of the longest side. The longest side is where it's going to fail. So what you really need to do is check and say, are the two shorter sides together longer than the longest side? And they're equal, but they're not longer, so that doesn't work, okay? So the way to shortcut it really would be to say, if I already know the three measures, I can just say, do the two smaller ones end up being greater as a sum than the larger one? So same thing here and here. Try it and we'll come back and check it. Okay, so doing what I said, take the two smaller sides, do those two together sum to greater than 9? And no, they don't. So no, does not form a triangle. Okay. For this one, the two smaller sides, 4 and 6. 4 and 6 together sum to 10. 10 is greater than 9. So yes, that can form a triangle. Okay, now let's say what could the possible side lengths of a triangle be if you knew two of the sides, okay? And this talks about the solve it. We didn't do the solve it, but the idea of this is two sides of a triangle are 5 feet and 8 feet. What is the range of possible lengths for the third side? Okay, well, you know two of the lengths. We need to find it. It's a range of numbers. It's going to be like a greater than, less than. It's got to be bigger than this and less than this kind of any span of those numbers, okay? So we'll use the triangle inequality theorem to write the three inequalities, and then we will determine it, okay? So you can see here that if we say x is the third side, so either x plus 5 has to be greater than 8, or x plus 8 has to be greater than 5, or 5 plus 8 has to be greater than x, where x is in, like all of the numbers take all the different positions, okay? And obviously x must be greater than -3. And since it has to also be greater than 3, we know that it's got to be greater than, like the smallest number is 3 here, right? It's got to be less than, though, in this case, 13. And the way they did it, they just added it together and they kind of flipped it. So we know that x has to be greater than 3 and less than 13. Yeah? Okay. Once we know that, we can say, okay, we say x has to be greater than 3 feet and less than 13 feet. Now, are you ready for the shortcut? Because the shortcut is pretty slick. What we're really looking for is let me write it here, the number that x is greater than and the number that x is less than, okay? And it's a mind-blowing trick. Watch what you do here. You take these two numbers here that they do give you, the two side lengths you do know, okay? Subtract them, larger minus smaller, 8 minus 5, 3. Add them together, 5 plus 8, 13. That's what x needs to be. It needs to be less than 13 and greater than 3. So easy, right? If you know two sides, you can find the range of numbers that the third side could possibly be by subtracting them as a positive number, right? 8 minus 5. And then adding them for that one. Yeah. Okay, so we'll do this with the got it problem in just a second. All right, so now you have a triangle with side lengths of 4 inches and 7 inches. What is the range of possible side lengths for the third side? And I really want you to start out mentally by imagining that you're saying it's a number that it's in between these two values. What are those two values? Try it and we'll come right back. Okay, what are those two values? Well, if we subtract the number, 7 minus 4 is 3. That's the low end. If we add them together, 4 plus 7 is 11. That's the high end. And therefore, and by the way, we do have units of inches. So we know that x needs to be between 3 inches and 11 inches. And that's how you do it. Okay, I will update this video with the lesson check solutions from the teacher edition when I get access. We're getting that soon, I hear. So in the meantime, you can try these problems, but I won't have the answer for you unless you want to go over them with me in office hours. It's great. Otherwise, you can do your practice from the lesson or from the resource page or Math Excel. Good luck.